All right, Lance versus Rick, session 24.1. Fuck you, fingers. There you go. Or we could do that.
Stand back.
All right, let's do it. Okay. Lance versus Rick, session 24.1. There you go.
Hold on a second. Okay.
All right, what do you want to start? Puerto Rico? It's Puerto Rico week.
Okay.
All right, where Trump, you know, like the mayor of San Juan is saying, we're dying over here. Trump is calling her nasty for criticizing the efforts. He's been tweeting a whole lot, self-praise, just like, I don't know, it leads to the question of presidential demeanor, where Trump is less presidential than previous presidents. And you have to wonder whether it matters or not.
Less presidential than Bill Clinton getting head in the White House while he was making deals on how our troops should be dealt with in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
So it's less. So if you say a tweet that people don't like, that's worse than if you're getting a blowjob from an intern while you're discussing the lives of our men that are in the military on the phone.
Let's limit the let's talk. Who boned in recent history? Eisenhower boned, Kennedy boned, Johnson boned. Carter only had lust in his heart. I mean, there was a lot of boning, but we're talking about demeanor. The public. Ah,
yes, demeanor. That's what matters to Democrats. Go ahead.
No, I'm asking, does it matter that we have a guy who, or it's also part of the culture? And I'm reading a book called, I think, A Generation of Psychopaths, which is an attack on the boomers and our we're both boomers, and our self-entitlement and how we're so much not the greatest generation. We were pampered by the greatest generation, and we've kind of glommed much of the economy for our own selves and screwed later generations. And you have reality shows, you have social media, you have, smartphones, all of which kind of have made the average person in America and probably the world more of a dick, feeling more self-glorified. And so, does it matter that we have a president whose demeanor kind of matches our own increased dickishness?
Well,
and yeah, all right, it's a dick move to get blown in the Oval Office, but
while you're discussing military affairs, guys' lives are at stake. You're actually on the phone talking about it while you're getting blown.
All right, but I'll give you that.
Oh, but actually, I found out. I was listening to something today, which I was aware of. But did you know that the Clintons received millions of dollars in campaign contributions from the Chinese military?
I don't know, but like that's
well, they did.
Now you're doing all right. We're not going to do the what about this stuff.
We're not.
Let's not. Let's talk about. I already gave you Clinton getting blown while he's talking about.
But actually, I don't even care about the blown. I care about the millions of dollars in contributions.
We're not. Come on, let's answer the.
Followed
if we were in court,
by
all right. If we were in court, it's answer the question.
No, I'll answer the question. That's the problem. Okay, if it was up to me, the president would be a combination of George Washington, Cary Grant, and Jesus in his demeanor. But I didn't get that choice. You were going to give me the hero of Benghazi, or I had this guy that was an unknown quantity that talked like an idiot a lot of the time.
Now, hold on. Let's not an unknown quantity to people who've tracked his career.
No, I didn't know how he was going to perform in office, and what he said he was going to do appealed to me.
Well, okay, so I agree that I had to track him because I wrote jokes about him I got paid to write jokes about public figures who do stuff that you can make jokes about. So in that way, he was like Britney Spears and Michael Jackson and the Kardashians. But that doesn't mean that he was going to govern the way he's governed. He was an unknown quantity because he had some Republican stances, but he also had some liberal stances. And it was a little bit unclear how he was going to. So,
if you want criticism of Trump, I'm going to give you the criticism.
Okay.
I really don't care about his demeanor, in that if I get what I want, I'll put up with his demeanor. I do not believe his demeanor is what I would like, but I think there are certain reasons, before criticizing Trump's record, I'll say that I think the reason his demeanor was appealing to people is because I'd rather have a president say radical Islamic terrorism than a guy that is so PC that he can't say those words in 8 years in office. So, if being blunt is part of the package of having Trump's demeanor, I like that.
Okay.
I also think that I am barraged, if that's barraged.
Yeah.
I'm barraged with stories on the Yahoo and Google that I know aren't true. I go and I read. About a year ago, I started reading these bizarre things they were saying about Trump, and then I would look it up on 2 or 3 other sources, or find the actual speech, and Trump would be saying the exact opposite. So I know that I'm being lied to by the liberal press.
Well, hold on.
No, wait, I'm not done.
All right, but
and so as a result, the poor guy has to make these tweets because it's the only way he can be sure that they're not going to twist it into a lie. So he kind of has to make these tweets, which under normal circumstances wouldn't be necessary.
Well, then I got to say that circumstances aren't normal for both sides, because libs were bombarded, and just everybody in general were bombarded with fake news. And I could argue fairly strongly, based on statistics, that more of the fake news pertained to the liberal side than the conservative side. But I don't want to have that argument. But let me make this argument to get back to demeanor. Do you agree with me that people drive more like dicks than ever before?
Well, I'll tell you this much. We've got a lot of illegal aliens in this country right now. In my neighborhood, I'm sure there are a lot, and they drive like they do in Mexico. And there's just basically no rules. It's just, once you get behind the wheel of the car, it's whoever is strongest gets to make the lane change.
All right, well, I live in a less shitty neighborhood than you, and the illegal aliens in my neighborhood drive very carefully because they don't want to get busted. But everybody else fucking drives with a phone tucked in their crotch because it's illegal to drive while texting, but people still do, and they think they can get away with it if they tuck the phone next to their dick or vagina so the cops can't see it. And they drive like shit because they're looking down every second and a half, and I feel like people feel more and more entitled to do whatever they want while they're driving. I drove next to a lady 2 nights ago who was reading a paperback novel or with a flashlight while driving. Now, there have always been lunatics who do shit like that, but I just see more and more of it, and I'm wondering, with a kind of commander-in-chief who's dickish and does whatever he wants, does that pollute the national culture? Is it a cause or an effect, or is it both, or is it neither?
Okay, before I answer that question, I'm going to reveal something. Because of the enormous number of illegal aliens in Los Angeles, there are actually estimated to be millions in Los Angeles.
Oh, come on.
The freeway is so overcrowded that on one memorable trip I had on the freeway, I ate, talked on the phone, and slept. Wait, I ate, talked on the phone, washed myself. I brought a bucket with some water in it, and slept while driving. All in one driving trip.
I assume you weren't moving when you slept.
I don't know.
Oh, that's bad.
But the point is that that's what we have to resort to because of Democrat policies.
Well, that's crazy. You're blaming your terrible driving behavior on illegal aliens.
Well, at least I'm a citizen, and as an American citizen, I have to. These are the coping mechanisms the Democrats have forced me to
Well,
go.
that's also ridiculous because there are about 8 million people in Los Angeles, and you're saying that there are of them. You said millions, so that you're saying.
I would say that I would bet that if the numbers were truly known, I would say probably 1 out of every 10 people in LA is an illegal alien.
Okay, so that's less than a million.
It's less than a million, yeah. But it's still a lot. I mean, all right. So now let's get back to your original question.
Rick, how do you feel about the term illegal alien, Rick?
Oh, I forgot. What are we supposed to say? Undocumented? I don't know. I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I should care, but like, all right, there's. Yeah, all right. It's not the best term, but stopping to correct that, I don't know. There's other stuff.
Do you think how does a person feel to be called an illegal alien? What do you think, Lance?
I don't give a damn.
Bad. A person would feel bad.
Well, then they should stay in their country of origin.
Undocumented is a better term. So
They
say
should
undocumented.
stay there because they're having a terrible effect in my country, and that is what they are. They're illegal and they're aliens, and they need to go home. And that is leading me to one of the things I'm pissed off about Trump. He's backing down on it. So you should love Trump. He's not building the wall.
He wants to build the wall.
And he's going to
Wait, hold on. He is building the wall. He's building the wall in 4 different places.
Oh, really?
4 different companies are building sample stretches of the wall so he can choose what he likes better, or somebody can choose, some committee or who knows.
Well, then you've restored my faith in Trump. Thank you.
Well, but just because
Great president.
Just because he has companies, building 200-foot sections of the wall on spec doesn't mean that the wall's going to.
Well, then I hate the bastard.
Okay.
Who's going to do? Okay, let me just add, since we're here, the landscaping and the jobs that people don't want to do, right?
Well, hopefully it'll be.
Why are you laughing?
Well,
I think you mean
our director is suggesting that we hire illegal aliens to do the landscape on the wall to keep the illegal aliens out of the United States.
You misunderstood the question.
But it's true though. There will need to be some landscaping on the wall that we need to keep them from coming in.
Well, Trump says the wall needs to be see-through so you don't get hit in the head by bales of drugs that are tossed over the wall.
And as a liberal, you're against that.
I'd need to see statistics. How many
really?
people?
There are no drugs being brought in by illegals.
No, that's not the question. The question is how often do people get hit on the head with bales of pot or whatever being tossed over the wall?
I would like to thank Trump for the poetic and sort of humorous imagery that he created in order to promote the idea of American sovereignty and borders. To answer your question, Director, what will happen is people will end up having to pay more for stuff they need, and they'll end up having to hire unemployed Americans, unemployed American teenagers. Because I live in a very poor neighborhood, and the jobs that are low skilled, that is jobs that when you don't know anything, you've got no skills, you're just a stupid 18-year-old, and you need any kind of money. You can't get those jobs in my neighborhood because they're taken by illegal aliens. So that's who's going to do those jobs. And what's more, if you need it done that badly, you'll pay more. So that's fine by me.
I have several. But there's not a good matchup between the number of teens and the distribution of teens and the distribution of undocumented.
You have no idea. You have no idea. That's just a made-up statistic.
What do you mean?
No study has ever been done on that.
Or would you say that undocumented aliens are unevenly distributed across the U.S.? Yeah, there are more of them in certain cities.
Okay.
Teens are evenly distributed. Wherever you have a population, unless it's a senior living community, you're going to have teens. So you have teens as kind of an even coating among the whole population.
All right.
You have undocumented aliens. You know, there are proportionally more, and LA might be the biggest city for undocumented.
LA is the biggest Mexican population anywhere except for Mexico City.
All right. So yeah. So maybe you've fixed something to some small extent around, you know, Southern California, but that leaves the rest of the country. Anyway.
Actually, one of the great things that the Obama administration did was bus illegal aliens around the country. They did that on purpose when they got to the States. There was an office in the White House I told you about, and you didn't believe me, that was charged with bringing in people that shouldn't be here and taking them into red states so they can put down roots. So that's how shitty the Democrats are.
Well, I'm sure the office wasn't.
And by the way,
I'm sure it wasn't the office of bringing in people who shouldn't be.
No, but there was somebody in the White House charged with that. And by the way,
not exactly.
And every time they managed to root an illegal alien or a Muslim immigrant in a Muslim community or in a red state community, those people would have kids so that 18 years later they would vote Democrat.
So how do you feel about that's a segue into Dreamers, Rick?
Oh, that's another thing. Wait, I'm pissed off at Trump for being open-minded about Dreamers. Enough is enough. That's another thing. What is this? We didn't elect. He's like Jeb Bush now. He gets into office and now he's like Jeb Bush. So if you want to talk about pissed off at Trump, that is upsetting me.
So because you want to just deport all these frickin' 800,000 people who have no ties to any other country.
What I think we need to do, first of all, this DACA program has been going on for years and years. They started it, I think 2 or 3 years later, and I would be willing to do this. I'd be willing to say, you know what? You got 5 years to finish up your degree, finish curing cancer, since we know they're all curing cancer, and then you got to go. I'd give them a few years. I mean, if they needed to get their affairs in order, but you can't stay. You can't stay, and any more than I'd be able to stay in France. I said this last week. If my parents had left me in France, the French government would come to me and say, you know, allez, allez. They would just, in English, they would say, get the hell out of here. It's time to go, guy.
Sure?
No country lets people stay in it.
Do you know that for
Yes.
How?
Yes, I'm certain of it.
How? Have you looked it up?
Yes.
And
in every other country, if you're not a citizen, even if your parents dumped you here when you were 9 years old, you gotta go. I lived in Europe. They told me at one point, you know what? You gotta go.
How old were you when you lived in Europe?
They told me this when I was 18.
Yeah,
and they said, what are you doing here? I said, well, you know, I thought I'd take some classes. And they said, you got to go.
When did you come to Europe? Also when you were 18?
I had been in Europe when I was a child. I lived in England for about 4 years. So I could have said, well, you know.
Because your family lived there.
Yes.
Under a visa. Your dad was over there working on stuff.
Yes.
And so you probably had visas and junk.
Well, no, actually, I don't think we went to that trouble. We were more like your favorite illegal aliens. We just showed up with a plane ticket and we ended up staying.
So you lived in England from what, like age 6 to 10, and then you went back here and you lived in Pacific Palisades.
Where is this leading?
There's no parallel between showing up in France at age 18 and saying I should be able to stay because I want to, compared to some kid who was brought over here at 3 or 5 or 7.
Hypothetically, I was there when I was 9. if my parents had just dumped me on a French family, then I couldn't turn around and tell the French government, listen, I'm French. They would not have bought it, and they wouldn't buy it in any other country on earth.
I don't know.
No, I am certain. I'm certain. You look up the immigration policies of any other country in the world. You're not allowed to just show up at a country and say, well, I've been here since I was 6, so that means I'm Brazilian. No, it doesn't. You got to go home. Why do we have to be different? So that you guys can get more votes. That's the only reason. So you can depress the wages of poor people?
It's 800,000 people. It's less than 1/4 of 1% of the population.
I don't want that quarter of the population to be illegal aliens. I want them to go home.
All right, so
I'm an American. I'm in favor of the people living here that are American citizens. Your allegiance is to foreigners because you're a Democrat. You don't really love the American people. You love bringing in people from other countries.
Here's horseshit.
Then why do you care about them?
Because we disagree, then I don't love America.
Why do you care about them? Why are you willing to give American jobs to those people? Why do those people's why do their needs come before our needs?
1/4 or 1% is somehow fucking up the employment picture.
Well, where does it start? You know, it's math. You start with 1/4%, then you go to 0.5%, then you go to 1%, and you get rid of people. Why don't you care about American citizens that are being raped and murdered by these people?
Not by
and being
dreamers,
given.
not by dreamers.
Not by dreamers? What? They're all curing cancer, getting Nobel Prizes. None of them are committing crimes.
Most of them, like, they commit crimes at a much lesser rate.
I don't want them to commit any crimes. Every single woman that is raped by a dreamer is your fault.
How many women have been raped by dreamers?
I don't care if it's one.
Because
none of them should be raped.
all of them have to have clean criminal records. They all have to be in school or working. I mean, there are all these conditions.
They just have to be taking an American job, right?
800,000 people.
Get them out of here.
Who've lived here for at least 10 years apiece.
Okay, I give them 5 years to get their affairs in order.
All right,
That's how nice I am. I'm willing to be compassionate. If you marry an American citizen, you can stay. If you've got some degree you want to complete, that's fine. But we have to draw the line.
All right, fine.
So
Let's move on to something else.
What is this, real quick? Just in this last one, just to
Okay.
put a button on this. What does this mean to you? Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest lost to me.
Tempest tossed.
Tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
It's Emma Goldman's poem at the base of the Statue of Liberty, because we are a nation of immigrants. And, you know, that's what we're arguing about. How much immigration and from where and under what conditions is acceptable. And all that stuff needs to be discussed, as we've kind of been half discussing, half yelling about.
Well, I'm sorry I yelled.
It's all right. It's all right. And you know, among people, I mean, there's a reason that the Dreamers Act was created, because among the 11.7 million or so undocumented aliens in the country, those people seem to have the best case for being able to stay and build American lives. But anyway, let's move on to something else.
Do you want to respond to that real quick?
Yeah, I don't give a damn about the poem. I don't make my immigration policy based on a poem written by a socialist and stuck on a statue. That's not how I make my immigration policy. My concern is not for the world's teeming, huddled masses. The southern hemisphere is gonna double in size. We're gonna have 13 billion people on this planet, and all of them are gonna want to come to the United States. And I want them to stay where they are. I'm concerned with American citizens, not poems on the statue. And my concern is how we can best help our people, not our country. The guy that needs a job, the guy that wants to go to the hospital and get emergency care, the person that wants to go to a
Oh wait, you're concerned about that guy because that guy needs.
and the person that wants to go to a school where the language is English, the person that doesn't want to be raped or given drugs
hold
or
on,
murdered. I'm concerned about American citizens.
Let's talk about why English is the only language. I mean,
I'm calm. I'm not upset. If anything, I feel a sense of magnanimousness.
well, do you hate it?
Rick, English.
What about Quebec?
Quebec is a country. The nation of Canada is deeply divided and is continuously on the verge of civil split up. Why? Among other reasons, because they have different languages. Now, Democrats want to disrupt the foundations, the fabric of the United States, because they're natural-born nihilists. But what I want is for the country to keep its language.
But what do you like the founding fathers, right? They didn't name an official language.
They didn't think that people would want to destroy our country as badly as the Democrats by taking away our national culture. English is the language of our founding fathers. It's the language of our philosophy of government. It's the language of the heritage of our country that has proven so successful around the world.
Let me give you. All right, so
English
is a good language.
Which includes Canada, New Zealand.
Okay. No, it includes.
We are the inheritors of the Magna Carta.
So you don't think that immigrants can learn English?
The Glorious Revolution of 1688. Locke, Montesquieu, although he might have been non-English.
Yeah, right.
We are the inheritors of the English tradition.
All right,
and I
so
want
you
to
think
keep
immigrants can't learn
and
English.
Also, a country needs one language.
And you think immigrants can't learn that one language?
I think that what the Democrats want is a multilingual society.
Now, you know what? Actually, this whole argument in terms of how the future is going to work is bullshit because we're all going to have fucking tricorders that do instant translation anyway.
Yeah, they have those. Have you seen those?
Yeah, so why are we arguing about what language? Everybody's going to speak whatever language they want and everybody will understand everybody.
Because we're part of the British heritage.
Yeah,
this country is the inheritor of the British culture. And it's good that way. We're not the inheritor of the Burmese culture or the Brazilian culture.
But
we're part of the British tradition.
Whitey's going to be a minority by, what, 2020?
I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about culture. I believe that the British culture had something special, and because
the British culture doesn't have gazpacho, it doesn't have burritos, it doesn't have tacos.
Yeah, but you know what? The British culture in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the United States is what created, and Britain itself, is what created the most sustained, democratic, human rights friendly societies on earth. And it's not an accident. It's because of their culture, and I want to keep that culture. It's because of the British tradition.
You're saying this is a culture war, not a language war.
Well, I mean, put it this way. The English language comes with it. It is the vehicle for delivery of English culture, but I want to keep the culture we have. And you could say, well, everybody could speak German and behave the same way. I understand that. But I want to keep one culture. And if we have to have one language, I want it to be the language of the Founding Fathers. We can't have 10 different languages in the United States.
Actually, you can, because in the future, everybody can speak what they frickin' want. Because of technology.
It's not worth arguing about. Go ahead.
All right, let's move on to something else, because I hate this whole area.
There's been this Mueller investigation has been growing. A whole team of investigators are being hired. Where do you think this is going to end up with?
I listened to a bunch of stuff about the strategy used by the special investigators and prosecutors in investigations like this. There are various things. You don't want to reveal your cards prematurely. You want to intimidate potential witnesses and potential defendants to get them to roll on each other, to get them to give up information, to get them to make deals. I think they pretty much told Manafort to prepare to be indicted at some point. But there's not a lot of information getting out, but a lot of people are being subpoenaed. And yeah, Mueller has brought in a lot of people a lot of prosecutors and lawyers who are experienced in RICO type, which is organized crime type investigations and prosecutions. And all I can say right now is I think some people will be indicted, and it's unclear as to whether those indictments will reach all the way to the president. And I'm not even sure the president can be indicted because he might have certain immunities as president. And, we really don't know, but certainly some people will be charged at some point.
So this all started out as an investigation into Russia meddling. How does that tie in? I'm just being the devil's advocate. What do you think?
There is a bunch of evidence now that Russia likes to interfere in the world's politics, because the more it can fuck up the rest of the world, the more it can be free to pursue its own opportunities without, its own agenda. So they like the divisiveness in America right now, and I mean, they've tracked all this advertising, all these fake stories, and one thing they're investigating is how involved were Trump's people in what Russia did during the election of 2016. And I mean, that's how it ties in. And there's some stuff that looks bad now on the surface, which is, that Manafort got paid $21 million, I think, from a pro-Russian Ukrainian government. What is it, Flynn, who was the guy who didn't admit anything and was getting paid by various foreign entities?
No, he didn't do anything.
Well, no, he got paid by Turkey, he got paid by... But anyway, that's how it ties in.
We've had this discussion, and I guess we're just going to keep having it.
No, let's not then.
Well, no, I'll just briefly say, you can't say that Trump colluded. Well, I frankly don't even think you should be investigating unless you have reason to believe he did it. And we had this discussion before with Watergate. They actually caught the guys, and they were caught. They were caught by a policeman, and they said, "Well, where'd you work?" And they said, "Well, we work at the White House."
Yeah, they work for the committee to re-elect the president.
Correct. So my point is that if you don't have any of that, then it's just a witch hunt.
Yeah, but no, they do have a lot of. They have Manafort having undisclosed relationships. They got Kushner forgetting like 100 different contacts with foreign governments.
No, but it was normal for them to have contacts with foreign governments. I mean, it's like they're
yeah, but you're supposed
to
declare that shit.
Yeah, but that's a clerical oversight.
Not when it's with 100 different. It's not a clerical oversight. So, yeah, if somebody screws up 100 times, you maybe look at it. People have heard us to go over this before, and we heard our famous bet. I'm telling you that there will not be any situation where they're going to say, you know what, we've got a tape recording of Trump making a deal with Putin. Yeah, but I'm not saying that.
Or even anything remotely like that. There just isn't anything that you have now, and I don't think there will be. That's all. That's my final point.
But yeah, I just said like 5 minutes ago that there may not be that either.
Yeah. So why are the Democrats? Oh, I know it. They're grasping at straws.
Well, yeah, I admit that, yeah, everybody's on the liberal side, and most of the country is pretty sad at who we have as president.
Why?
Because he's a dick.
Because he's a dick.
He is a dick, and he doesn't know the mechanisms of governance because let's move on to taxes, because he just presented a tax plan which won't get through because it's too ridiculous, that gives 50% of the tax relief to people making more than $730,000.
Okay. Did you know that the people making that money also pay most of the taxes?
Yeah, there is that. I'll give you that mathematically.
Wait. I have to explain this to our viewer because it's logic that seems to escape Democrats, even Democrats that are good at math.
No, because I've got the rest of the math.
Tell me the rest of the math.
All right, so there's a graph that shows the tax relief both now and 10 years from now under the Trump tax plan. And under the plan, the percent tax relief, or the percent in extra income via the tax relief, is wildly skewed to the top 5 and to the top 1 and top 0.1%, where the top 1% and top 0.1% each get 10% increases in what they get to keep, while everything below the 95th percentile, below the top 5%, they get between like 0 and 1% tax relief. So that's percentages.
Okay, Rick, I thought you were going to say something that explained the point I was going to make, so I let you interrupt me. It is those very rich people that pay the vast majority of taxes. Let me just explain before you interrupt me. If you make under $20,000 in California, you're not paying any taxes. The vast majority of, probably about half of the people in the United States, don't pay any taxes.
No, that's just deceptive. They
don't
pay any income taxes.
Right,
say the right thing.
Okay, but that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about sales tax.
Well, yeah, but you say that everybody, but you have to, why not be clear?
Okay, fine.
Why not say, can I kiss you?
If you pay a tax on a tomato, even if you're a poor person, you still pay the tax on the tomato.
Yeah.
But my point is this. Roughly half of the people in the U.S. are too poor to pay any taxes. And so the other 50% that make, over 20,000, and these numbers won't make sense in some states because some states make less money than California. But the middle class and the upper class are the classes that pay the taxes in the United States.
And are they doing it
yes.
in their own terms?
Like what?
Like snowflake and libtard and cuck. And
what's a cuck?
An effeminized male who's...
Well, anybody that's trying to get laid by pretending to be a feminist is a cuck.
Well, you can be an actual feminist and still want to get laid.
All right. I don't... It is the left wing that... Well, there's the famous speech by Hillary Clinton where she said Trump is a racist, homophobic, deplorable,
Trump hasn't done himself any
Islamophobic.
He hasn't done himself any favors in the past 2 weeks.
What has he done?
He's made comments he's kind of treated Puerto Rico differently from Texas, where you could argue that that's not exactly not racist. It's not explicitly racist.
Wait a minute. How has he done that? This is new to me. He's deliberately sabotaged ways of helping Puerto Rico?
No, just what he says.
Just what he says.
What he tweets.
What he tweets.
You said that it's important for Trump to be able to tweet because then he can say what he means without it getting twisted. Okay. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say,
what did he do to
he said that Puerto Ricans just want everything done for them, and just, I don't know, he's tweeted more than, he's tweeted dozens of times.
So he's a Puerto Ricanist? It's okay, you just said it's not racism.
What?
You just said it doesn't prove that he's racist.
I did, but it doesn't prove that he's not racist either.
Well, it doesn't prove that he doesn't beat his wife either.
Well, yeah, but when you look at his...
It doesn't prove that he's not a child molester either.
Like, when you take his tweets, not in their entirety, but when you take his recent tweets and his recent hassles with people, where, you know, he's in an argument with largely the black players in the NFL. He's in an argument with some brown people on an island. None of it says explicitly that he's a racist, but all of it kind of leans in that direction.
I think that the people that aren't standing for the national anthem are idiots. If they happen to be black, they're black idiots. Does that make me a racist?
I don't know.
Okay, it does not make me a racist. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with a black football player, Rick. If a black...
But you did say you're Islamophobe.
Yes, I am. And by the way, that doesn't mean I'm anti-Arab. Because I have friends. I mean,
well,
I lived with an Arab woman, but she wasn't a Muslim. So, I mean, I don't hate Arabs. I hate Islam. And if it was up to me, Arabs would give up the Muslim religion. Yes. So I am Islamophobic.
All right. I don't know. We should.
Well, wait. There's a point I was trying to make here, and that is, I am sick and tired of the Democrats trying to blame Republican presidents every time there's a national disaster, like an earthquake or a flood or a hurricane. The Democrats go into action, and they try to find some way of making the president look like he's not doing everything he can. And I think it's transparently dirty and deceitful, and I can't believe you're buying it, Rick. I mean, look, I don't blame Obama for the way he handled Sandy. I am not blaming Trump for the way he's handling Puerto Rico. I am certain that the American president, whoever he is, whatever party he is going to do everything possible to help a country, to help a state in need after a hurricane. I don't see why the Democrats have to turn this into a political issue, a way of trying to crucify Trump.
Well,
and that's all it is.
I admit that, well, he shouldn't be such an asshole in his fucking tweets to the people, about the people of Puerto Rico. And you've got a 3-star general over there saying that the response hasn't been adequate.
Well, what's he going to say? We're doing a great job? 3-star generals get paid to say we need to do a better job. That's what if I would be saying we need to do a better job until every Puerto Rican is dry and has electricity and plenty of gas and food, there's a problem. But don't pin it on Trump like he's some kind of anti-Puerto Ricanist. It's just pathetic.
Well, no, some of his, all right, he said some nice stuff about, he says he knows, he said he knows, since he lived in New York, he said he knows people from Puerto Rico, and he knows Puerto Ricans.
It's a stupid thing to say.
Yeah,
he should just shut up.
Yeah, and he should stop tweeting, because it makes it, he should stop being an asshole to the people he's trying to help.
He's not being an asshole to them. I mean, not from just saying that he likes Puerto Ricans, which is a stupid thing to say.
No, it's not. He's also like, you know, that Puerto Rico, like, you know, they're more screwed up than Texas because they owe a bunch of money to banks, and it's a whole...
Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret that I learned. I actually have inside knowledge. I know somebody that worked on the New Orleans after they had the flood in New Orleans, the Katrina. Yeah, I know somebody that actually was working with the emergency services down there, and she told me that the way it works is this. Now, this is good knowledge. This is new for the internet, so don't interrupt me like you always do. She told me,
as I always do,
she told me that the reaction to the disaster depends a lot on the kind of place it is, the city or the or the territory or the government. And what she meant was this. She said that the reason Katrina was such a fiasco was because New Orleans is a corrupt city. And the more poor and corrupt an area is, the less able it is to deal with disasters. And she told me that if the same exact hurricane had happened in Los Angeles as happened in New Orleans, everything would have been fine. There would have been some initial disasters, but it all would have been taken care of because the government here is not as corrupt.
Well,
now,
can I
no, you're going to interrupt me, and I'm making a point here. Now, I do not know which government was more corrupt or which government was starting from further back in terms of money. I suspect that the people of Houston, the people in the city of Houston, were probably better able to deal with an emergency than Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is already starting from further back. And I also really firmly believe what Trump said, and that is the fact that it's on an island and that it's hard to get supplies there makes it infinitely more difficult than it was to help a city in the middle of Texas.
Well, all right, so let me say some stuff. Houston is spread out like crazy. I assume Houston is like LA. That, you know, it doesn't cover 800 square miles or 4,000 square miles or whatever you want to say LA covers, but it probably covers, I don't know, 500 square miles. It's hard to, I would assume that some of, not all of Houston was totally hammered as badly as all of Puerto Rico was hammered.
Puerto Rico was unquestionably wiped out. That's what everybody's saying.
New Orleans is below sea level.
Yeah,
They
but
hold the sea level.
those dikes were not kept up because the city government was corrupt.
Well, also the Army Corps of Engineers did a crap job of installing them. They weren't built competently. But yeah, so you can say that LA would do better, but LA is above sea level.
The only thing the woman told me was that if you're already starting in a city that's extremely poor and has a lot of corruption, everything becomes more difficult because everybody wants to be bribed. Nothing was ever really in place properly. Everyone was cutting corners to begin with. And that's, I suspect, why Puerto Rico, besides being in the middle of the ocean, I'll bet it's harder to deal with than Houston. And it's just not fair to blame the president for a natural disaster. And I don't understand why the Democrats have to do this.
Well, we're in the middle of it still. Still, like half of the island.
And I'm
has,
sure Trump is doing everything he can.
Well,
why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? What you think Trump is sitting there saying, you know, screw those people in Puerto Rico. I don't want to help them. Let's put everything we can in their way.
In Trump's favor, he apparently appointed a FEMA guy who deserves to be a FEMA guy. The guy Bush appointed, Brown, was a horse show guy. Trump's FEMA guy was head of FEMA for Mississippi or Missouri, one of those states, and actually seems to be pretty competent. And we're still in the middle of Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Half the people on the island have no fresh water. 95% of the people have no electricity. So we're still waiting for everything to shake out. And when it's shook out, there may be a clearer picture of what could have been done and shouldn't, or could have been done and did get done. So we're still shaking out. But in the middle of it are some ridiculous Trump tweets.
Well,
but hold on.
All right, go ahead. Ridiculous Trump tweets.
Now, you could argue that people knew that Puerto Rico was going to get slammed days before they got slammed, and that they could have moved ships and supplies into positions beforehand. But I don't know if anybody has ever done that kind of super competent work in preparing for a disaster.
That's the thing. Look at what happened in Miami. everybody thought Miami was going to end up like Houston,
Yeah,
and
and
the hurricane avoided it.
Yeah.
So my suspicion is that people knew that under the right circumstances this could have happened to Puerto Rico, but it happened much worse. It just sort of like nobody really expected it to be this bad, and I don't think it's the president's fault. I mean, he's not a.
But he
he's
doesn't
not a,
help himself with dickish tweets.
Okay, let me tell you something. I was in our last conversation. I was going to start criticizing Trump. One, half of those tweets shouldn't be said. I agree. Two, I don't like his softness on DACA. Until you corrected me, I thought he wasn't building the wall.
Well, he might not be. He might be making only token gestures because he can't.
I wish that he had recognized Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel. I don't like that he can't get rid of Obamacare, but that's really not his fault because the Republicans in Congress are scum and they're not helping him. So it's a mixed bag so far. I don't think, but I'm much more pleased with him than I would have been with Hillary Clinton, whose attitude was to just open the border, and who loved the Iran nuclear deal.
How do you know she would just open the border?
Because she kept saying she was going to, and furthermore, if you disagreed with her, guess what you were? An Islamophobic, Hispanophobic, xenophobic. She called people xenophobic, by the way. That's another one I left out. I was called a xenophobic this week. So, if anybody that tried to stop the ceaseless flow of millions of illegals was the enemy of
What did she
Hillary.
specifically say?
She specifically said that she would not build a wall. She was thinking of a pathway to citizenship for the people that were here.
So she's not throwing open the border. She's just saying
Well,
that
if
she
you're
wasn't going to
here
build
and
it.
you're illegal, she was going to make you an American citizen.
No, I mean, not necessarily.
Okay, let me put it this way.
I mean, the pathway
I can't remember precisely what her policy was, except that she kept saying pathway to citizenship.
All right, but
I know
people have
she
been
was gonna
talking
do
about that stuff for a decade. More.
Yeah, but Democrats do it.
It takes people frickin' years and years, and you don't know who
And
she
then
was
they can
talking
vote
about.
Democrat, so it's perfect.
Yeah,
for
but
her.
you don't know how many of the 12 million or so undocumented aliens that applies to.
And I think it's closer to 25 million.
Yeah, I know, but that's some kind of weird conservative cherry picking.
Yeah, and your
conspiracy
11 million is some kind of weird Democrat
bullshit. Well, it's
conspiracy
based on
thing.
like government statistics.
Those government statistics are.
I know the government has like weird I know it's X-Files over at the government.
It's not a question of that. The government statistics are based on census answers. That means you go to somebody that has snuck over the border.
It's not just
maybe been raped to get to the United States, broken every law, and then you go to their house and you say, "Are you illegal?" And then if they say no, you say, oh, American citizen, then they walk off. That's how they did it. They asked them, "Are you illegal?"
That's not 100% how they did it.
That is how they did it. And the point I'm trying to make is...
How do you know that? They don't...
Because that's how they based it. They just sent out the census.
No, they don't do that.
Yes, that's how they found out who was illegal.
You've never read an article on how they determine the number.
I have. Okay, you want to read the article? It's Adios America and Culture. It's all notated. You can look in the back of the book for all the notes, and you can look up the articles. That's how they came up with the 11 million figure. But the truer figure is closer to 20 million.
And this is according
to
what you just said. Is it 20 million,
more careful study. It might be 30, but I'm not even going to say that. It could be as high as 1 out of every 10 people in this country.
Oh, come on. And this is from Ann Coulter.
It's from a business, a very important business company. I forget the name of it. It's a very important stock company, like billion-dollar business, and they wanted to know, because of some business reason, I can look it up on the break, and they did a very extensive survey, and it wasn't just a census sent around and saying, are you illegal or not?
It's not the business guy who was two
Do you
kids
want me to
under a
look it up?
trench
No,
coat
if you're
on
going to
BoJack
make fun of
Horseman.
me, then I'm just going to look it up.
All right,
We can
okay.
stop the tape,
All right,
and I can
break,
look
we'll break.
up who
Okay,
did
okay,
this
so let's
thing.
do that. Let's do that.